Act like you love me, please, I whispered desperately, clutching the sleeve of the imposing stranger beside me at the roulette table. My ex-boyfriend's cruel laughter echoed across the casino floor as he paraded his new diamond-draped girlfriend past my waitress uniform. The dark-haired man turned slowly, his obsidian eyes assessing me with calculated precision. His custom suit probably cost more than 6 months of my rent, and the way security nodded deferentially as he passed told me everything I needed to know about his status in Las Vegas. And why would I do that, little bird? His voice was deep velvet wrapped around steel, accent slightly Italian and entirely dangerous. He didn't smile, didn't flinch, just studied me like I was a particularly interesting problem he hadn't decided whether to solve or eliminate. My ex was approaching now, that smug smile growing wider as he recognized my panic. The bruises from our last disagreement had finally faded, but the financial devastation he'd left in his wake meant I was living paycheck to paycheck while serving drinks to men like him. Something dangerous flickered in the stranger's eyes as he tracked my ex's approach, a predatory assessment that should have sent me running. Instead, when his arm slid possessively around my waist, I leaned into his touch like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Oh my God, Arya, is that you slumming it again?" My ex's voice dripped with mock surprise as he stopped before us, his new girlfriend giggling behind her hand. "I see you've moved on to soliciting casino patrons now. How very resourceful." The shift in atmosphere was immediate and terrifying. The stranger's body language changed from casual interest to coiled threat in a heartbeat. "I don't believe we've been introduced," he said, voice deceptively light. "I'm Dominic Costantini, and you are speaking to my date in a manner I find disrespectful." My ex's face drained of color so rapidly I thought he might faint. The name Costantini clearly meant something to him that it didn't to me. "Mr. Costantini, I had no idea. He stammered, backing up a step and nearly tripping over his girlfriend's designer heels. I'd asked the devil for a dance, and now the music was starting to play. Dominic's thumb traced small circles on my hip bone, a strangely intimate gesture that sent shivers racing up my spine. "Your previous relationship with my companion is of no interest to me," he said coldly. With a dismissive glance at my now trembling ex, Dominic smoothly guided me toward the private elevator bank at the rear of the casino floor. "5 minutes of pretend just became much more, little bird," he murmured, swiping a keycard that illuminated a button no regular guest would ever see. "I don't understand. Who are you, really?" I asked as the doors closed, sealing us in the mirrored elevator car. My heart hammered against my ribs as the reality of my impulsive decision began to sink in. I'd escaped one predator, only to willingly walk into the den of another. A ghost of a smile touched his lips as he studied my reflection. "Someone who should terrify you far more than that insignificant man downstairs," he answered honestly. "The real question is, who are you? And why do you have bruise concealer on your wrist?" The elevator ascended silently toward what I assumed was the penthouse level. "I'm Arya Morgan, cocktail waitress, community college dropout, and apparently terrible judge of character," I answered, surprising myself with my candor. "Those bruises are courtesy of the man downstairs, who cleaned out our joint account when I finally got brave enough to leave." He said nothing for several long moments, just studied me with that unnerving intensity. When the elevator chimed and the doors opened onto a palatial foyer, he finally spoke. "Well, Arya Morgan, it seems we both have interesting problems tonight. I need a convincing date for a family matter, and you need financial stability and protection." The proposition hung in the air between us, dangerous and tempting. I should have run while I still could, but something in his steady gaze promised safety, despite everything his name represented. "I'm listening," I said, stepping into the penthouse that would change my life forever. The penthouse suite sprawled before me in a display of wealth so extravagant it made me dizzy. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the glittering Las Vegas Strip 30 stories below, while priceless art adorned walls that had probably never known the touch of a maid's feather duster. "You're not just some rich businessman, are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper as the pieces began falling into place. The deference of casino security, my ex's terror at the mere mention of his name, the armed men treating the penthouse like a military checkpoint rather than a hotel room. Dominic poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter, handing one to me with a raised eyebrow. "The Costantini family has diverse business interests throughout Nevada and beyond," he answered smoothly. "Some legitimate, others less discussed in polite company." My fingers trembled slightly as I accepted the drink. the cool crystal a stark contrast to the heat of his gaze. "You're offering me a deal with the devil," I stated, rather than asked. "Protection in exchange for playing your girlfriend for some mysterious family event. What happens when I've served my purpose?" A dangerous smile played at the corners of his mouth as he sipped his drink. "Perceptive little bird. Yes, I need someone unconnected to my world to accompany me to my grandfather's birthday celebration next weekend. Someone who won't be recognized by our competitors or law enforcement." "And what exactly would that entail?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, despite the rapid beating of my heart. The alcohol burned a fiery path down my throat, doing nothing to calm my nerves as I contemplated making a deal with a man who was clearly involved in organized crime. Dominic moved to the window, the city lights casting dramatic shadows across his aristocratic features. "You'd live here, learn enough about my business to maintain conversations, dress and behave as my equal. In return, your financial problems disappear, and your ex-boyfriend learns the painful lesson of respect." The offer dangled before me like forbidden fruit, tempting and terrifying in equal measure. "Why me? You could have anyone," I challenged, setting down my untouched drink. "Models, actresses, women who already know how to navigate your world without tripping over themselves. Precisely why they wouldn't work," he countered smoothly. "Everyone in Vegas knows who's connected to whom. I need someone genuine, someone unexpected, a surprise element that confuses our enemies. Your obvious lack of connection to my world is your greatest asset." My cheeks flushed at the unexpected compliment, even as alarm bells rang in my mind. "And if I refuse?" I asked quietly, already suspecting the answer. Men like Dominic Costantini didn't reveal their criminal connections to witnesses who might walk away and talk. To my surprise, he simply shrugged one broad shoulder. "Then I call security to escort you safely home, deposit enough money in your account to handle your immediate problems as payment for entertaining me tonight, and we never see each other again." His unexpected response disarmed me more effectively than threats ever could have. 1 week of preparation, the weekend celebration, then I walk away with enough to start fresh, I clarified, trying to find the trap in his seemingly straightforward offer. "No strings, no expectations beyond playing the convincing girlfriend?" "One additional condition," he amended, moving closer until I could smell his expensive cologne. "Whatever you see or hear during our arrangement stays between us. The family business remains private, regardless of what temptations might come your way from curious journalists or law enforcement." The warning was delivered calmly, without menace, which somehow made it more terrifying. I swallowed hard, weighing my limited options against the devil's bargain before me. "I accept your terms," I finally whispered, extending my hand to seal our pact. "Then welcome to your new life, Arya Morgan," he replied, taking my hand in his much larger one. The warmth of his skin against mine sent an inappropriate thrill through my body, a dangerous reminder that I was playing with forces beyond my control. The transformation began immediately, ruthlessly efficient like everything else in Dominic's world. By sunrise, my meager belongings had been moved from my dingy apartment to the penthouse guest room, my waitress uniform replaced with designer clothes that appeared mysteriously in custom closets. "Family rule number 1, never show weakness," Dominic instructed as a stylist worked on my hair the following morning. "You'll be watched constantly at the celebration, by my family assessing your worth, by business associates measuring my attachment to you, by enemies looking for leverage." The crash course in criminal etiquette continued through elegant dinners, where he corrected my table manners, and nightclub outings, where he taught me to identify undercover police officers by their body language. I learned the complex hierarchy of the Costantini organization, which capos could be contradicted, and which should never be questioned. What Dominic didn't anticipate was my quick adaptation to his world, my waitressing experience giving me an unexpected advantage in reading people and situations. "That man has approached 3 separate servers asking about you," I murmured one evening at a restaurant Dominic's family owned. Dominic's eyes narrowed as he casually glanced toward the man in question. "Excellent observation, little bird," he approved, signaling subtly to one of his bodyguards. "Federal agent, newly assigned to our surveillance detail. You're learning faster than I expected." The lines between pretense and reality began blurring dangerously as the week progressed. I found myself leaning into his touch without prompting, memorizing his preferences, not because I needed the information for our charade, but because I genuinely wanted to please him. Our first public test came at a charity poker tournament where several Costantini associates would be present. Dominic selected a blood-red gown that draped over my curves like liquid sin, adorning my throat with diamonds that caught the light with every breath. "Remember, you're mine tonight," he reminded me. We had barely entered the venue when I spotted my ex across the room, his face darkening with recognition and fury. "Don't engage," Dominic warned softly, his hand tightening around my waist. "He's nothing now beneath your notice." But the wounded pride in my ex's eyes told me this wouldn't be the last confrontation. The evening progressed smoothly until I excused myself to the ladies' room, only to find my path blocked in the deserted hallway by my seething ex. "Having fun playing Gangster's Mall?" he sneered, alcohol fueling his recklessness as he crowded me against the wall. "Everyone knows what you really are. Trash he'll dispose of when he's finished." Fear froze me momentarily, old instincts from our relationship making me shrink before I remembered my new reality. "Touch me, and it will be the last mistake you ever make," I warned with newfound confidence, channeling Dominic's calm menace. "I'm under his protection now." My ex's hand shot out, gripping my wrist with bruising force before I could react. "You little—" His words died as a shadow materialized behind him, Dominic's expression terrifyingly blank as he assessed the situation with predatory focus. The temperature in the hallway seemed to drop several degrees. "I believe the lady asked you not to touch her," Dominic stated with deadly quiet, each word precise and sharp as a blade. My ex released me immediately, backing away as the color drained from his face. "That's twice you've disrespected what's mine. There won't be a third time." What happened next revealed the true nature of the world I'd entered. With a barely perceptible nod from Dominic, security descended on my ex, removing him so efficiently that other guests never noticed the disturbance. "Are you hurt?" Dominic asked, inspecting my wrist with surprising gentleness. "I'm fine," I assured him, though my voice trembled slightly from the adrenaline. "What will happen to him?" The question slipped out before I could stop it, curiosity overwhelming my better judgment. Something dark and primitive in me wanted to know what consequences awaited the man who had terrorized me for years. Dominic's smile held no warmth as he guided me back toward the main event. "Nothing that will be traced back to us," he replied simply, effectively ending that line of questioning. "But he won't bother you again. No one disrespects what belongs to a Costantini." Later that night, as we returned to the penthouse, the atmosphere between us shifted perceptibly. "You handled yourself well tonight," Dominic observed, loosening his tie as we stepped into the elevator. "My associates were impressed by your composure. Even my uncle commented on how naturally you fit at my side." The praise warmed me more than it should have, danger and desire twisting into something intoxicating as the elevator ascended. "I'm a good actress," I replied softly, though we both recognized the lie in my words. This was no longer pretense. Somewhere between the designer clothes and diamond necklaces, I had begun falling for the devil himself. The night before the Costantini family celebration, I stood on the penthouse balcony watching the neon lights of Las Vegas blur through unshed tears. For 7 days, I'd convinced myself this arrangement was purely business, protection and financial freedom in exchange for a convincing performance. Dominic joined me silently, his presence announced only by the subtle scent of his cologne and the warmth radiating from his body as he stood beside me. "Second thoughts, little bird?" he asked, his voice lacking its usual commanding edge, replaced by something that sounded dangerously close to concern. I couldn't bring myself to look at him, afraid my eyes would betray emotions I wasn't ready to acknowledge. "Just nervous about tomorrow," I lied, gripping the railing tighter. "Your family sounds intimidating." The half-truth hung between us, flimsy as cigarette smoke. "They'll adore you," he replied with unexpected gentleness, his hand covering mine on the railing. "But there's something you should know before we arrive." The hesitation in his voice, so uncharacteristic for a man who commanded rooms with mere glances, sent alarm bells ringing through my mind. The confession spilled out methodically, each word precise and carefully chosen. Dominic wasn't merely part of the Costantini crime family. He was its reluctant heir, groomed since childhood to take control of an empire built on blood and loyalty. His grandfather's birthday celebration was also to be Dominic's formal introduction as the family's next leader. "So I'm not just arm candy," I whispered, the pieces clicking into terrible place. "I'm your statement piece, proof that the next generation is stable, settled, powerful." The betrayal stung sharper than I'd anticipated, proof that I'd invested emotional currency in a man who saw me as a strategic move. His silence confirmed my accusation, dark eyes unreadable in the shadowed light. "I needed someone they wouldn't suspect was planted by rival families," he finally admitted. Someone genuine who could pass the scrutiny of men who've survived decades by detecting lies and weakness. You exceeded every expectation. Morning arrived with tense silence hanging between us as we boarded his private helicopter for the journey to the Costantini family compound outside the city. The sprawling estate nestled against dusty mountains reminded me of a fortress disguised as a luxury retreat, beautiful, elegant, and designed for defense. Dominic's grandfather greeted us at the entrance, his wheelchair and oxygen tank doing nothing to diminish the aura of power radiating from the old man. "So this is the woman who's tamed my grandson," he observed, sharp eyes missing nothing as they catalogued my designer dress, nervous smile, and the way Dominic's hand rested possessively at the small of my back. The celebration unfolded like a beautifully choreographed play, each family member performing their assigned role to perfection. Cousins evaluated me with calculating smiles. Aunts inspected my manners with narrowed eyes. Uncles tested my knowledge of the family business with seemingly casual questions designed to trip me up. I passed each test with the skills Dominic had drilled into me, earning grudging approval from the family matriarch and outright admiration from his younger cousins. "She adapts quickly," I overheard one uncle comment to another. "Could be useful if she's loyal." The casual way they discussed me, like an acquisition rather than a person, sent ice through my veins. The facade crumbled during dinner when 2 federal agents arrived unexpectedly, flashing badges that silenced the room. "Just a routine check on known associates," the lead agent explained with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mind if we ask your lovely date a few questions, Mr. Costantini?" Dominic's expression remained impassive, but his hand found mine beneath the table, squeezing once in warning. "My girlfriend is not involved in family business matters," he replied smoothly, voice betraying none of the tension I felt coiled in his body. "But of course, we have nothing to hide." Before I could formulate a response that wouldn't incriminate either myself or Dominic, the door opened, and my ex-boyfriend walked in, sporting a fresh black eye and a federal visitor's badge. "Hello, Aria," he said with malicious satisfaction. "I've been telling these gentlemen all about your new boyfriend's activities. Turns out they're very interested in fresh perspectives." My blood froze as realization crashed through me. My ex had made a deal with the FBI, trading information about the Costantinis in exchange for immunity or protection or revenge. "I have nothing to say to any of you," I stated flatly, channeling Dominic's calm authority despite the panic threatening to overwhelm me. The lead agent smiled thinly, sliding crime scene photos across the desk, brutal images of violence attributed to Costantini enforcement actions. "Your boyfriend ordered these hits, Miss Morgan. The man you're sleeping with has blood on his hands that will never wash clean. You can either help us build a case or go down with him." My ex leaned against the wall, smugness radiating from him like cheap cologne. "They can offer witness protection, Aria. New identity, fresh start, all the things Dominic promised but can actually deliver without making you an accomplice to murder. All you have to do is wear a wire to the next family meeting." The door burst open before I could respond, Dominic filling the frame with cold fury radiating from every line of his body. "This interview is over," he announced, no room for argument in his tone. "My lawyer is already on his way. Unless you're formally charging my girlfriend with something, she's leaving with me now." The agents backed down with reluctance, but my ex moved to block our path. "You can't keep protecting him, Aria. These people are monsters. They broke 3 of my ribs and threatened my family just because I talked to you at the casino." His voice cracked with what might have been genuine fear beneath the manipulation. The drive back to the city unfolded in tense silence, Dominic's security team forming a protective convoy around us as we fled the compromised family compound. "You should have told me the feds were investigating you," I finally said, unable to erase those crime scene photos from my mind. "You made me an accomplice without my knowledge." Dominic's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, his profile sharp as a blade in the dashboard lights. "I've done things I'm not proud of, Aria. Protected family interests through means that would horrify you. But I've never ordered the kind of brutality shown in those stage photos. That was a textbook manipulation tactic." My mind raced through options, each more impossible than the last. I couldn't go back to my old life. My ex had seen to that by connecting me publicly with the Costantinis. I couldn't stay with Dominic without becoming deeper entangled in his dangerous world. I couldn't trust the FBI's protection when they'd already demonstrated willingness to use my ex as a pawn. The penthouse felt like a gilded cage when we arrived. Security doubled at every entrance, and Dominic immediately retreating to his office for hushed phone conversations with family captains. I packed a small bag while he was occupied, desperation driving me to attempt the impossible, disappearing from the radar of both the mob and the federal government. When I emerged from the bedroom with my pathetic escape attempt concealed under a casual outfit, Dominic was waiting in the living room, a glass of scotch untouched in his hand. "I'm not going to stop you," he said, surprising me into stillness. "But before you go, there's something you need to know about your ex-boyfriend and his sudden alliance with federal authorities." A manila folder slid across the coffee table toward me, containing surveillance photos of my ex meeting with men I recognized from Dominic's security briefings, members of the rival Salazar cartel that had been pushing into Costantini territory for months. "He's playing both sides, Arya, feeding information to the feds while taking payoffs from our competitors to undermine the family from within." Dominic's expression softened fractionally, vulnerability showing through his carefully maintained facade. "He's not just your vindictive ex. He's working with dangerous criminals who would use you as leverage. Because somewhere between the casino floor and tonight, you became more than a convenient cover story. The family noticed. Our enemies noticed. And now you're in danger regardless of whether you stay or go." Dawn painted the Las Vegas skyline in shades of gold and crimson as Dominic outlined our options, each bleaker than the last. We could run together, abandoning his family obligations and living as fugitives from both the law and the cartel. We could stay and fight, using the Costantini resources to eliminate threats from all sides. Or option 3, I suggested, an idea forming as I studied the surveillance photos. We use me as bait. My ex clearly wants revenge against both of us. Me for humiliating him, you for the beating. If he thinks I'm turning against you, he'll bring me directly to his cartel contacts to prove his value. Dominic's reaction was immediate and visceral, a flash of genuine fear crossing his face before hardening into resolve. "Absolutely not. I've sent men and women into dangerous situations before, Arya, but I won't sacrifice you to clean up my family's mess. There has to be another way." The plan formulated over the next 24 hours, mapped out in Dominic's secure office with his most trusted lieutenants. I would appear to have a falling out with Dominic publicly, seemingly terrified after the FBI questioning. My ex would undoubtedly approach me, offering protection that would lead me straight to the heart of the rival organization. "The wire needs to be undetectable," Dominic instructed the family's technology expert, a slight man with nervous hands and brilliant eyes. "If they search her, and they will, it needs to be something they would never think to check." His protective intensity had only grown stronger with each detail of the operation. The wire ended up disguised as an underwire in my bra, virtually undetectable even to trained searches. The tracking device was embedded in a diamond earring, real stones to pass any authenticity checks, with a microscopic transmitter hidden in the setting. "They're beautiful," I whispered, touching the glittering stones with trembling fingers. "They were my mother's," Dominic replied softly, the admission startling me with its intimacy. "She wore them the night she met my father. Family legend says they bring protection to those who wear them with honest hearts." The vulnerability in his eyes made my breath catch, this glimpse of the man beneath the criminal facade. Our staged argument at an upscale restaurant went perfectly, my tearful exit capturing the attention of every patron as I fled from the controlling monster I'd foolishly involved myself with. Security cameras would ensure the footage reached my ex within hours, and Dominic's team had prepared a hotel room for me that appeared to be hastily booked by a woman in crisis. The knock on my hotel room door came sooner than expected, barely 8 hours after our performance. My ex stood in the hallway, concern painted across his features so convincingly I might have believed it once. "I heard about your fight with Costantini. Are you okay? Did he hurt you?" I allowed tears to fall, not entirely feigned as the dangerous game we were playing hit home. "I can't go back there," I whispered, inviting him inside with shaking hands. "The things his family is involved in. The FBI showed me pictures. I just want out, but I'm scared he'll find me." My ex's comfort transformed smoothly into an offer of help, connections who could get me out of Las Vegas immediately and ensure Dominic never found me. "These people owe me favors," he explained, already texting someone from his phone. "They're not exactly law-abiding citizens themselves, but they hate the Costantinis even more than the feds do." The trap was set, the bait taken with such ease it was almost disappointing. 4 hours later, I found myself in a remote warehouse on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by members of the Salazar cartel, who viewed me as their golden ticket into Costantini operations. "Tell us everything," their leader demanded. "Security protocols, property layouts, names of undercover officers on their payroll." I played my role perfectly, A terrified woman betraying her lover to save herself, feeding them the carefully prepared misinformation Dominic had crafted. He keeps his most important documents in a safe behind the painting in his office, I revealed with seeming reluctance. The combination is his mother's birthday, August 17th, 1975. I saw him open it once when he thought I was asleep. My ex preened at each revelation, his status within the rival organization clearly rising with each piece of intelligence I provided. The Salazar lieutenant nodded approvingly, ordering one of his men to verify the information I'd given them. If this checks out, we move on the Costantini holdings tonight. Their security will be focused on finding her, not protecting their territory. The raid began precisely at the moment Dominic had predicted, cartel members descending on a Costantini warehouse based on the intelligence I'd provided. What they didn't know was that the FBI had been anonymously tipped off about the planned attack, federal agents surrounding the location minutes before the Salazar forces arrived. Chaos erupted in the warehouse where I was being held when news of the failed raid reached the leadership. "You set us up," my ex snarled, backhand catching me across the face with stunning force. "You're still loyal to that monster." His fingers closed around my throat as panic surged through me. This wasn't part of the plan. The warehouse doors exploded inward before my ex could tighten his grip further, Dominic leading the charge with cold fury etched into every line of his face. "Get your hands off what's mine," he commanded, gun aimed unerringly at my ex's forehead. Behind him, Costantini enforcers poured into the space, outmaneuvering the surprised cartel members with practiced efficiency. Time seemed to freeze as Dominic and my ex faced each other, the warehouse silent, except for the sound of weapons being readied and my own ragged breathing. The Costantini forces had the tactical advantage, but desperation made the cornered cartel members unpredictable and dangerous. "Let her go, and I might let you live," Dominic offered, his voice deceptively calm despite the murderous intent in his eyes. "This doesn't have to end with your blood on the concrete, but that decision is entirely yours." My ex's grip on my throat loosened as reality sank in. He was outmaneuvered, outgunned, and seconds away from death. "You don't understand what you're up against, Costantini," he spat, desperation making him reckless. "The feds have been building a RICO case against your family for months." A cold smile touched Dominic's lips as he gestured to one of his men, who tossed a thick folder onto the floor between them. "You mean this case? The one where Agent Reynolds has been feeding you false information while taking payoffs from my family for years?" The color drained from my ex's face as he flipped through the documents with his free hand, recognition and horror dawning as he realized how thoroughly he'd been played. "This is impossible," he whispered, looking frantically between the papers and Dominic. "They promised me immunity, witness protection, a new start." "They lied," I said softly, finding my voice despite the fear constricting my chest. "Just like you lied to me for years, stole from me, hurt me. Everyone's been using you. The FBI, the Salazars, and now you have nowhere left to run." What happened next unfolded with terrifying speed, my ex shoving me toward Dominic as a human shield, the flash of a concealed weapon, the deafening crack of gunshots echoing through the warehouse. I felt the burn of a bullet grazing my arm before Dominic caught me, his body shielding mine as his men returned fire. When the chaos subsided seconds later, my ex lay motionless on the concrete floor, surrounded by fallen cartel members. "Get her out of here," Dominic ordered his security chief, pressing a handkerchief against my bleeding arm. "Take her to the safe house and have the doctor meet you there." Hours later at the safe house, Dominic took my hand with surprising gentleness. "The warehouse fire destroyed any evidence connecting us to what happened," he informed me quietly. "The official report will show a drug deal gone wrong between the Salazar cartel and local distributors." Relief and horror mingled in my chest as I processed his words. I was safe, but at the cost of multiple lives and an elaborate cover-up that made me an accessory after the fact. "Where does this leave us?" I asked, the question encompassing far more than our original arrangement. Dominic's expression softened, vulnerability showing through the cracks in his carefully maintained facade. "I have an offer from my grandfather, retirement from active family operations." He was impressed with how we handled the Salazar threat and the federal investigation. "And what about me?" I whispered, afraid to hope for something I hadn't even realized I wanted until that moment. "Where do I fit into this new, cleaner version of your life?" The question hung between us, fraught with possibilities neither of us had anticipated when I'd first begged him to pretend to love me. His answer came not in words, but in actions, the gentle brush of his lips against mine, a kiss unlike any we'd shared in our charade, filled with genuine emotion and unspoken promises. "Wherever you want to," he finally murmured against my mouth. "Partner, confidant, the woman who saved the Costantini family from destruction. The choice is yours." The choice wasn't as simple as Dominic made it sound. Nothing ever was in his world. Accepting his offer meant accepting the blood money that had built his empire, the power structure maintained through fear and violence, the knowledge that no matter how legitimate the future might be, the past would always cast its shadow. "I need time," I told him, watching something like fear flicker in his eyes, before he masked it with understanding. "Not to decide whether I want you. I think we both know I do. But to be sure I can live with the price of admission into your world." Dominic respected my request with unexpected grace, setting me up in a luxury apartment with discreet security while I contemplated my future. "Take all the time you need," he said, pressing the keys into my palm. "I've waited my entire life to find someone who sees me. Not the name, not the money, not the power, just me." The separation proved more difficult than either of us anticipated, highlighted by short phone calls that stretched into hours and brief meetings to discuss security concerns that inevitably ended with us reluctant to part. I used the time to research the Costantini legitimate businesses, discovering surprisingly ethical practices beneath the criminal veneer. A month into my self-imposed exile, news broke that rocked Las Vegas to its core. Several FBI agents arrested for corruption, evidence lockers found tampered with, and a major RICO case against organized crime families dismissed due to improper handling of evidence. Dominic's influence reached further than I'd imagined. Yet alongside these troubling revelations came others: anonymous donations to domestic violence shelters throughout Nevada, scholarship funds established for underprivileged youth, community development projects in neighborhoods forgotten by city planners. The Costantini name appeared nowhere in the public records, but I recognized Dominic's hand. My decision crystallized during an unexpected encounter at a coffee shop near my apartment, where I bumped into the wife of one of Dominic's capos. "He's different with you," she confided over lattes, her designer handbag and manicured nails belying the sharp intelligence in her eyes. That evening, I called Dominic and asked him to meet me at the same casino where our story began, at the roulette table, where I'd first begged him to pretend to love me. He arrived precisely on time, tension visible in the set of his shoulders, until he saw me waiting, something in my expression making hope flare in his eyes. "I have conditions," I stated without preamble as he took the seat beside me. "Complete separation from illegal operations within 1 year. Legitimate investments only. Reparations to communities harmed by Costantini activities. And full transparency between us. No more secrets, no more half-truths, no matter how ugly the reality might be." A slow smile spread across his face as he recognized what I was offering. Not just acceptance, but partnership. A shared vision for redemption rather than blind forgiveness of past sins. "Anything else?" he asked, taking my hand and bringing it to his lips in a gesture that sent electricity coursing through my veins. "Just one more thing. I need this to be real between us." "Not just business," I whispered. Dominic's answer came without hesitation, his hand reaching into his pocket to withdraw a small velvet box that made my breath catch. "I had this made the day after you left," he confessed, opening it to reveal a stunning engagement ring unlike anything I'd seen in jewelry store windows. The transformation began immediately. Legitimate businesses expanded, while criminal operations were systematically dismantled or transferred to distant relatives who preferred the old ways. Dominic's grandfather, seeing the changing landscape of modern crime and the increased federal scrutiny, gave his blessing to the new direction. My role evolved from convenient cover story to essential partner, my outsider perspective proving valuable as we navigated the complexities of rebuilding a family legacy. "You see possibilities where we've always seen limitations," Dominic observed one evening as we reviewed plans for converting an old casino into affordable housing. 6 months after my initial desperate plea in the casino, I stood before a mirror in the Costantini family compound, barely recognizing the woman reflected back at me. Designer dress, perfectly styled hair, confidence in every line of my posture. External transformations that paled in comparison to the internal ones no one else could see. I smoothed non-existent wrinkles from my dress, the diamond earrings that had once concealed tracking devices now simply beautiful accessories that caught the light. "I'm not afraid of the spotlight," I replied honestly. "I'm afraid of disappointing him. The changes he's making for me, they're costing him in ways I'm only beginning to understand." The old man's laugh turned into a wheezing cough before he regained control. My grandson has been preparing for leadership his entire life, but you've given him something none of us could. Purpose beyond power, vision beyond survival. The family is stronger for it, whether the old guard realizes it yet or not. Dominic appeared behind his grandfather, resplendent in a tuxedo that accentuated the powerful lines of his body. Telling family secrets, nonno? He asked lightly, though his eyes never left mine, appreciation and something deeper warming his gaze. You look breathtaking, amore mio. Ready to scandalize Las Vegas society? The charity gala represented Dominic's official emergence as the legitimate face of Costantini Enterprises, the first public event where we would appear as engaged rather than simply dating. Reporters lined the red carpet, hungry for glimpses of the notoriously private family now seemingly embracing the spotlight. Mr. Costantini, is it true your family is divesting from casino operations to focus on real estate development? A journalist called out as we paused for photographs. And is this the mystery woman who's been linked to you for months? Cameras flashed in rapid succession, capturing Dominic's protective stance beside me. With practiced ease, Dominic fielded questions about business transitions, while deflecting more personal inquiries with charming deflection. Tonight is about raising money for children's education, he reminded them smoothly. My fiancé and I are simply honored to contribute to such an important cause. Inside the ballroom, I felt the weight of curious stares from Las Vegas elite, casino owners, developers, politicians, and celebrities, all wondering about the woman who had captured the heart of the enigmatic Dominic Costantini. Whispers followed us across the marble floor, speculation mixing with thinly veiled envy. Your ex-boyfriend's replacement is here, Dominic murmured against my ear, subtly directing my attention to a federal agent watching us from near the bar. New task force leader, hoping to succeed where his predecessor failed. He'll be disappointed to learn there's nothing left to investigate beyond tax records and building permits. A year ago, such scrutiny would have terrified me. Now, I met the agent's suspicious gaze with a serene smile, secure in the knowledge that our path forward was legitimate, if unconventional. Let him watch, I replied, accepting a champagne flute from a passing waiter. The more they see of the new Costantini Enterprises, the better. The evening progressed with speeches and donation announcements, culminating in Dominic taking the stage to pledge $10 million toward educational programs in underserved communities. My family has benefited greatly from Las Vegas, he acknowledged to the surprised crowd. It's time we invested more directly in its future generations. Pride swelled in my chest as I watched him. This complex man who had begun dismantling a criminal empire not just for me, but for a vision of legacy that extended beyond power and fear. When he returned to my side, I couldn't resist reaching up to straighten his already perfect tie, an excuse to touch him in this room full of watchful eyes. Dance with me, he requested, leading me to the center of the ballroom where other couples had begun swaying to the orchestra's gentle melody. As his arms encircled me, I remembered our first meeting, how his touch had been a performance designed to fool my ex-boyfriend. The contrast between then and now left me breathless. I never thanked you, I confessed as we moved in perfect synchronicity across the floor. That night at the casino, you could have walked away, left me to my humiliation. Instead, you changed everything. My fingers traced the strong line of his jaw, marveling at how completely my life had transformed in mere months. Thank you all for following this story. If you're enjoying it, please write in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video, as your support is what allows me to continue creating these stories for you. These stories for you. These stories for you. These stories.